Hi, Janet Prey here for Islander Sewing Systems. Today I want to show you my recipe for cutting out a plaid shirt the easy way. So first, we're going to start with the front of the shirt. It doesn't matter if you start with the left or the right front. But what you want to do is find this center front line. And you want to lay that at both ends, make sure it's straight all the way through on one specific stripe of the plaid. In this case, I chose this big wide red stripe. So once that one's cut out, you can go to the next front and you want to, again, line that center front up on the same stripe. But you also, at this point, want to make sure that the neckline ends up on the same stripe across this way. And the hem as well. So you want to make sure your hem is going to come to the same stripe at the bottom. This way your shirt will match horizontally and vertically on the stripe. So once the fronts are cut out, we know they're going to match and they're going to overlay exactly on that stripe. We want to cut out the back. Very simple to cut out the back because we just want to match up the stripe from the front. And if we've cut these out well and kept everything on the straight of grain, the left and the right side seams will be identical. So we'll just line this up, make sure that you match something. If there's a notch, or in this case, the short and lengthen line that up and make sure that those stripes are going to match. And then when they match here, make sure they come out the same on this side. Now you know your side seams will match. The next thing we want to do is go over to the sleeve. Now we want to cut two sleeves. I'm not going to worry about matching the sleeve. There is ease between here and here and here and here. So even if I was able to match up the stripe in one of these places, it's going to shift later. So rather than try to match that sleeve up, what I do is I make both sleeves identical. In other words, they're mirror images of each other. So I cut out the first sleeve. Now we know the next sleeve has to be exactly the opposite. So you could turn this pattern piece over, find that same stripe that you lined your straight of the grain up on, and line it up over here so that you know you have a mirror image. And then double check the key points on the pattern piece to make sure everything's lining up. Or another thing that I often do is I just take my sleeve and I flip it over and I line it up until it matches perfectly the plaid. And this you have to be very careful because eventually it starts to blend in. So you want to make sure that you could see the edge of the fabric and that you can cut it out. But you can see if I play with this a little bit, I'll get it all lined up and it'll look exactly the same as the other sleeve. And so then we'll cut that out. So either the pattern upside down or the sleeve, but if they're both identical, they're mirror images of each other, it'll give a nice pleasing look to the plaid on the front of your shirt as well as the back. Now the other pieces, I will cut the two collar stands and the two collars. I'll cut those out on the straight of the grain, which would really be going this way. So we'll do that. And again, the nice thing about plaid, you can see I extend all my straight of the grain lines so that I can match this right up at a specific point of the plaid at both ends. And because a plaid, a quality plaid, is a woven fabric, that is the straight of the grain. One of those stripes is the straight of the grain, so take advantage of it and use that. So just extend your extension or your straight of the grain lines and line those up. Now the pieces that I like to cut on the bias are the yoke. And I'm going to cut the yoke on the bias. And again, I've extended that grain line. And then I'm going to cut the yoke facing on the straight. And the reason I do that is that bias is can get a little stretchy. And if I cut the facing on the straight, then it kind of helps keep everything on track. So then I'll cut out the cuffs. Two of the cuffs I'll cut out on the bias. And again, the two facings I'll cut out on the straight for the same reason that we did that on the yoke. And then we have the sleeve placket. And if you're going to cut that out on the bias, you're going to cut 2 of those. And then you either need to put a lightweight interfacing in it, or you need to really starch it. So using a heavy fabric starch, you could starch that. And the reason is that while you're applying this, because it's on the bias, it could stretch out very easily. And a spray starch does help keep that from happening. So that's my recipe for a quality plaid shirt that's going to look attractive but not be too fussy or too difficult to match all the pieces and put them together. So you can still keep your construction time down to 3 hours or so once you learn all the techniques.